Welcome to Screams and Streams, and our second part of our discussion of the film The Exorcist. Last week, we gave you our first impressions and started in on our categories. Thank you for joining us for part 2, where we're going to finish off the categories and discuss our research and bonus features on the film. Let's get to the episode. Let's move on to our next category. What stood the test of time? Chad, start us off.
So my next one just piggybacks on what you said, Mark, is what stood the test of time is Ellen Burstyn's acting. She just does such a good job at showing her frustration. And you made reference to the fact that you're a father, I'm a father. And I don't think you have to be a father to realize how messed up this is, but she really sells when she's trying to get the priest to do the exorcism. And he's like, well, you got to go to the doctors. And then she says, well, I've been to the doctors and they sent me to you. And now you're going to send me back to them. Just somebody help me. Like, look at my daughter. Like, you can tell she's messed up. And just her acting on that park bench. This is after she got hit by Linda Blair, and she's got the shiner, the black eye just under the sunglasses, and yeah, just somebody please help me. She just really sells that. And I thought her acting in this movie throughout was just awesome.
Yeah, she lost to Glenda Jackson that year, and I can't even remember what movie it was that Glenda Jackson had done, but I'm like, there's no way that was better than this.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't know, maybe because it was a horror film, because nobody really gives Oscars to horror films and action films, they just kind of overlooked it. And I know there's a lot of political stuff that goes with winning an Oscar as well in the background, behind the scenes kind of stuff. But yeah, she just nailed it.
Yeah, 100%. And I, like I said, I give a shout out to Linda Blair as well, like for being 13, 14 years old when she was doing this.
And what she did with that part.
Exactly. Like, she went through it as well, but she lost to Tatum O'Neal doing Paper Moon,
right?
Which is like I think one of the most iconic children performances in the history of cinema.
Right.
There's a reason she won an Oscar at 10. Like, it was a really good year for like teen and preteen.
Child actors, yeah.
Exactly. But of the 4 Oscars, that is the only one, of the 4 that it was nominated for, that is the only one I'm like, no, I don't agree with this. I agree with the other 3, but not that one.
Mark, do you want to give us your test of times?
One of the things that really has always caught me about this movie is the character development of it, and something that so many horror movies have completely abandoned as time has gone on. Almost like they took the wrong message away from this movie about what was scary in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not the fact that all these scary things happen. All these scary things really happen in the back half of this movie.
Yeah.
Primarily in the third act. Like, there's other stuff that obviously goes on, but like the iconic things are happening in Act 3. But you spend all of Act 1 at least, so at least the Act 1, if not the entire first half of the movie, just establishing these characters. Who are they? Like, there's all these little things, these tiny nuances. Like,
they do such a good job establishing the relationship between Reagan and Chris.
Amazing.
Like, when she steals the cookie from the cookie jar and they just have that little tickle fight. Like, you see this loving, happy home, and when especially rewatching, knowing what's going to come, those scenes are hard to watch.
They are.
Well, and building that relationship between the priest, the father in Iraq, and Zezu, when he finds the artifact and then he sees the statue and that pan away where they're facing face to face and the wind's blowing in the background and everything. That shot was amazing. I loved that shot. And so building that relationship, and then this is the guy we need to call in later on to deal with this thing, right?
Max von Sydow has such an iconic role in this movie, but if you sit back and actually run a timer on it, he's only in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, he's not in it very long at all, but it establishes that, right? Like, how many horror movies have come out that have taken beats from this one, but they completely miss that fact completely. Like even at the original runtime of roughly about 2 hours, I think, for the original movie. Like, that's a long time in 1973 for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, for a genre fiction, that is a long time. But it's because of these establishing shots. And you see people talking about, well, do we really need to watch Max von Sydow like wander around the streets of this Iraq town? For like, well, yeah, because
it builds that tension.
It does. Like,
and everybody stares at him. That guy with the glass eye, they look at him. The guys run out with the gun. He almost gets run over. This is all after he finds this artifact, right? Everything starts to kind of go sideways for him just there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the wind's blowing and Zezu's and,
So that gets into my second stood the test of time, and this mostly just applies to that first half, and it's the pacing of the first half and how they establish all these things. Like these two things kind of go hand in hand, but like the pacing helps the character development and the character development helps the pacing. In the second half of this movie, the editing gets really sketchy, I think. It gets to some points where like somebody will say something and what it is that they say has established that like weeks have passed or like a week has passed since the last scene, and we had no idea. There's nothing. Like the beginning of this movie is a masterclass in show don't tell, and then the second half of it is all tell no show, because they're like they have to catch the audience up on everything that happened off screen during that last quick edit that you probably didn't even recognize. So the pacing at the start, although the pacing keeps itself going fairly well through the rest of the movie, the editing kind of throws the storytelling off in the second half. So that's why I think that the pacing of the first half holds up so well and stands the test of time, because how many people, when they were first going to rent this movie and they put it in and thought that they had like rented the wrong movie. Right. But then allowing that whole scene in Iraq to kind of soak in, watching Max von Sydow walking around, switching over to Georgetown and learning of those relationships. Yeah, it can't be beat when it comes to storytelling and getting you invested.
Yeah.
Well, even the opening where we see the house first, right? It's this idyllic house, and then it jumps to Iraq.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, I thought, because that when you see the house, usually the first shot in the film is your establishing shot, where that is where everything's going to take place. We see that, which I guess that is where everything takes place, but then boom, right away we're
back to
shot to Iraq,
which is only in the extended cut. In the original, it jumps straight to Iraq. It doesn't show the establishing shot of the house.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
For me, for Test of Time, it's the soundtrack and the sound of the film.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Tubular Bells.
Okay, quick question while you're on this: how many songs are in this movie? Not including anything that goes over how much background music is in this movie? I counted last night.
Oh, I would just say the one, maybe
3,
2.
Wow.
It's Tubular Bells and Ramblin' Man's playing in the background at one point.
Oh, right. When they're at the bar, right?
The piano,
yeah.
The piano, I guess, would be a third, but that's diegetic, not non-diegetic. So
right. Yeah. Sorry, go back to what you're saying, but it was just something I noticed. Like there is no background music in this movie whatsoever.
No.
Interesting. So it's all just sound effect and
all
atmosphere.
Sound effects.
And they used the beginning, that main song when she's just walking down the street.
It's not even really an important scene. It's just her coming home from
work. She's just traveling, and they use that, and I was like, I remember watching it this time. I was like, why would they put that there?
But to this day, it's the theme song from Exorcist when you hear it.
Definitely, yeah.
So there's that use of Tubular Bells that's just ingrained in everyone's mind. But I mentioned the sound of like the crucifix. There's a scene, I think it might be when the priests are in the room, or it might just be Karras, but the ceiling above them cracks.
Yeah.
And the audio on that, like it jarred me when I was watching because I thought it was something around me. It was so well done.
That is a layered sound. Yep.
There's that. And then watching this in the theater, it was, midnight screening. So it's now 1 o'clock in the morning. We're tired. I think there was like 8 people in this theater. There was not very many. It wasn't a popular screening, but there's the scene when he's listening to the tape and he's playing it backwards.
Yeah.
And he's cranked it up and you've got that like hissing of the volume being too loud. And then the phone rings in the room. And they do it a couple of times where it's like, you're really concentrating on the audio and then there's like a jarring loud sound.
Something else happens. Yeah.
But all 8 people in the theater screamed when that phone rang, and we all laughed about it afterwards, but it was just unsettling.
But so many horror movies have taken from that, right? They get you focused on this and then there's a jump scare, but some do them obviously better than others. So sometimes it's a blatant bah and other times it's a subtle sound, but yeah.
There is like subtle sounds. Like at one point there's almost like a screech of strings on something, but it for something like this, it is so easy. And I know, like I'm listening to you guys talk about some of these movies that I've listened to in the past on the podcast, just identifying bad audio design and terrible levels and such. Like with this movie only having those 2, and they both happen in the first act. So other than that, it would have been so easy for something to be amiss in the rest of, but everything is very natural. There's nothing overly loud or overly quiet unless it needed to be for the sake of telling the story.
And I'm going to bring a piece of research in at this point, because as I'm talking about the sound and Friedkin, they actually use the sound of bees. Like underneath a lot of the sounds at the beginning of the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just to unsettle the audiences, right? Because you don't quite catch the humming, but it's there. And even at the beginning, I'm like, there's something like I did not like the sound design. Like
Going
not because
on.
I didn't like it. It wasn't well done. But
It's like white noise, but evil.
yeah. It creeped me out. It like sent something up my spine. And like I have a phobia of bees and wasps. So I was like, oh, maybe it worked on me perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have another test of time?
I have one. I had mentioned it before with the shot with the pan away shot with father and the statue, but then in the exorcism scene where she is on the bed and she's reaching up and it's well lit, and then the
demon statue superimposes on the side
in the
there.
background.
Yeah.
It's such an iconic shot, like just her pose and the way it was lit and the superimposing of the statue and everything. When the priest sees that, and his reaction is actually solid, not like the priest that walks in and sees the clay figure. When he sees that, he's just shocked. He's like, oh my God, now I know what we're really dealing with here. And although I will say, I thought she was tied up. I thought he had already tied her up. And then in the next scene, she's reaching out. She's untethered. And then in the other scene, the one that flips back to the bed, she's tied up again with her hands across her chest. So that's just a little
tiny continuity,
thing that I picked up on when I watched it. And I was like, oh, that messes up the shot for me. But if you're not looking for that, just the look of that shot, really.
I didn't even notice it. You're absolutely right. But
I didn't catch that either.
Yeah.
All right. You're good for test of times?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about the dog in the background. Dogs fighting and kids fighting in this too, right? Like,
oh, the dog fights were so good.
Yeah.
What was the movie we did where there was just some arbitrary dog fight scene they threw in there?
Deep Red.
Yeah. And so this one I remember watching, it's like, oh, dogs fighting again. And I just, these crazy street dogs just can't keep it together.
A part of that whole scene is, it wasn't even William Friedkin who shot that scene. It was the second unit director, because he couldn't be there to shoot it. I'm like, well, is that just something that somebody kind of threw in? But it all just kind of adds to the unsettling
chaos
nature of that. Max von Sydow's now met the demon. It's now with him. So it'd be very easy to write that off as just, well, it's just dogs fighting in Iraq. It's not that weird, I guess. I don't know. I've never been to Iraq, but it seems like the kind of thing that would happen in Iraq in 1973. But yeah, it has a place. Yeah. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It does seem unnatural. Like street dogs do fight, but it just, it does add to that unnatural atmosphere.
Unnatural. It's visceral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. We're now going to look at our back it up moments. So I'm going to start us off with a couple. And my first one was Karras' nightmare. After his mother's died, and he's just that slow walk of her up the subway steps, and he is trying to run towards her. Like, they captured that inability to move in a dream so well. Because we've all had that dream where you're running and you're sluggish and you can't move.
Yeah.
And again, they're building that guilt that he has over what happened with her. And I can't even tell what she's mouthing, if she's just calling his name Dimmy over and over again, or if it's something else. But it was just the perfect dream sequence. It captured what my dreams are like so well.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. And then my other back it up, we've talked about this so much that I'm not going to get into it too much, but the first time that Karras and the demon interact.
Oh, yeah.
Just the casualness of it, but also the lines that it uses to play with his guilt as well.
Yeah.
Like being the hobo, right? Like,
yeah.
Father, can you help me
spare,
out?
Yeah.
Just,
I'm a Catholic.
Just those little things. Just, again, I really liked the characterization of the priest. And so having the demon play on that, again, really built that whole, it's not just psychological, and it became Karras' story more for me than it was Reagan's.
I think so. I think this movie is Karras' movie.
All right, Mark, what do you have?
When I was first watching it, and I didn't even realize that they mention it in the scene, I just have to bring this up as somebody who enjoys a whiskey, and they're sitting there talking, and at one point they're drinking Chivis Regal. Chivis Regal has got to be the worst scotch in the entire world. And I don't know if this is some kind, it's not cheap, but I was just like, are they drinking Chivis? And I didn't realize there's a voice in the background that's talking about drinking Chivis. I'm like, I hate to, I feel like I'm really outing myself as a whiskey and scotch snob here, but it is just dog piss. I cannot stand it at all. But I did have to go back and watch and be like, oh, they are. Oh, that's terrible. I feel so bad for them.
Well, and there's even that line of like, I thought you were supposed to be living a life of poverty. How did how did you splurge and buy this fine bottle?
Oh my God, it is not at all. It's not even like one of their fancy bottles. Like we're not talking about like Johnny Walker Blue here or something like that. Like we're talking.
So we won't be looking for a sponsorship from Chivis Regal anytime soon.
Do you have another one?
I do. And it was something that I had to go back, and I'm glad that I rewatched it last night just casually while I was like cleaning my kitchen after dinner. So Karras gets the demon inside him at the end, has a moment of lucidity, and realizes that he has to throw himself out the window and toss himself down the stairs in order to save himself, save this little girl, and end this entire thing. And then there's some scenes before that and some scenes after that, and I kind of go back and forth in watching them. The distance from that window to those stairs is considerable.
Because there is the shot earlier where the detective's at the top of the stairs and he looked at the window, and it's not right over top of those stairs.
It's not. No. There's like 10 feet of shrubbery, a black wrought iron fence, then the walkway, then the stairs. And the way that it's shot is Karras throws himself out the window, and then he lands at the top of the stairs and he's fumbling down the stairs. And also, like, good on him for surviving that when Father Dyer comes up and gives him the last rites, because he's obviously still alive.
And
he's like
clenching his hand. Yeah.
But like, so like shout outs to him on that. But I'm thinking about like, he'd had a very short run up because he's standing right next to the window. And I'm just like, am I just like misremembering the distance there? I'm like, no, it is far.
Yeah.
Flies out that window and gets some serious distance. And it kind of goes back to that where her hands tied up or not.
Yeah.
Like obviously it's a gruesome shot and it's a heroic end. It's a self-sacrifice end for Father Karras, and good on him, but he ain't making that distance even with demon superpowers.
Well, and we're supposed to believe that the same thing happened to Burke Dennings.
Yes.
Right? He went up into the room, went through the open window, and then went down those stairs with a broken neck.
But that one,
she threw him.
Right. That was demon strength, right?
Yeah.
I can chalk that one up to demon strength.
Okay.
But still fair. Like, how much demon strength?
Yeah.
Does he have the demon strength now when he's throwing himself out the window? Because I think the demon would be resisting him throwing himself out.
I would think that too. I would think it'd try to keep him from jumping out the window.
Okay, so now you got the demon fighting against you with superhuman demon powers trying to stop you from jumping 35 feet out a window.
Any other back-it-ups, Chad?
Well, for me, that whole exorcism scene is just awesome. Other than the puke gets a little much, right? Because it does puke on the cloth, and then he has to go wash the cloth out in the sink.
She's ironing a sweater. You guys notice that she's ironing a sweater in the basement?
I know.
Like a woolen sweater. Have you guys ever done? I've never
ironed a woolen sweater.
No, never.
Set it up to dry. That's all it needs. But that whole scene I enjoyed, and I could watch again just for the excitement of it all and the shots, the way it's done, and how they film that scene. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that whole exorcism scene is a back it up moment for me.
I had one more, just a quick one. I think I'm really focusing on the stupid things here, but at one point Father Karras is walking down the street and I had to literally back up what I was watching at the time. Just like, is that a basketball net randomly located on a light post? and it's weird because if you see it, and I couldn't even give you a timestamp or anything like that. I wasn't that invested in how much of a but I'm like, this is one of those back it up moments that Mike and Chad are talking about. But I backed it up and I'm like, so there's the light post and then there's a basketball net on it with no backboard, and it's located directly over a basement access staircase. So I'm like, who's playing basketball?
It's the worst position ever.
It's like you either fall down the stairs or you put the ball in the basket and then it goes down the stairs. So I'm like, it was just one of those, I swear to God, that's a basketball.
Is this when he's walking home through like the ghetto and the kids are jumping on the car?
And they're jumping on the car there. It is there. So there is some kind of like justification. Maybe at one point it was the most beautiful basketball net you've ever seen in your life. But there's nothing else really kind of in that scene like that would make me think that it's not meant to be there.
Right.
So I see that and I'm like, either that was there already or like some set designer was like, well, we're just going to throw a basketball net up because that's what they got in the ghetto. And
well, and also the juxtaposition of the priest's house and Linda Blair's house, like it's all bright and light except for when the demon starts to take over. But when he comes home and he just sits down, and especially when his mom's dead and he's going through that whole rip up, I was just like, wow, man, priests really don't get a very good place to live, do they? Like they just get thrown up in this one little bedroom thing, and then he's trying to save this $1 million actress.
All right, we're going to go into our bonus features. Chad, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, there's tons of information on this film, and we've all heard, or maybe you haven't, but we've talked about a few of the things already being split pea soup, that the apparatus didn't work correctly. It wasn't set up, and then they had to adjust it because the pea soup got cold, and then it hit Father Karras in the face instead of the chest where it was supposed to hit in his face expressions. But one of the things that I thought was pretty cool was, well, not cool, but just a sign of the times for a director, was the reports of Friedkin just being irrational and so erratic on set, and he would push his actors, much like Kubrick, to get real emotions from him. And one of the scenes was, so when they were trying to show the breath in the exorcism scene, now they just After Effects it in there.
Yep.
And all the actors would be fine. But back then they couldn't do that. So they used meat locker air conditioners to cool the room down to minus 20.
Yeah.
And then they could only film for minutes at a time because it would warm up with all the lights and everybody moving around. And so then they'd have to shut down, cool it off. And this whole time, poor Linda Blair is in long johns and a gown. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is in, like, the whole crew were in snowsuits and mittens.
See what Ellen Burstyn's wearing in that scene? When she's standing outside the door, she is wearing a fur coat that you could put on, like, you could comfortably put on an NFL linebacker wearing full gear. Like, she looks like that hilarious picture of, like, Tom Brady with, like, his, like, winter coat on with this really big, and it looks like he's just got a really tiny head. That's what she's wearing. It's just like this big, luxurious fur coat. And then just thinking about Linda Blair in that scene.
What I love about the refrigeration is, like, there is a quote from Friedkin talking about it worked fine at 0, but he really wanted his actors to understand the chill. So then he put it down to minus 20. It's like, it worked at 0, but I'm going to freeze the hell out of him.
I'm going to freeze him. And, like, just there's reports of him smacking his actors. There's like tying that one actress down, feeding her, I guess this was her request, but feeding her eggs and whiskey to get the voice. Just his craziness. I also found out that Stanley Kubrick was offered to direct this, but he turned it down because he likes to only work on his own screenplays. So he turned it down and Friedkin took it over, but they seem very similar in their style, judging on, stories from The Shining and all his other works. So,
yes, ask Shelley Duvall about The Shining.
Yeah, no doubt.
Kubrick also turned it down because he wanted to be producer. But, William Peter Blatty, he wrote the script and he insisted that if the film was to be made, he would be producer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so when Kubrick made the demand, they're like, sorry. And so he stepped back. So there was that as well.
And also Friedkin hated the first script, right? He called it dog shit. He was like, I'm just going to be honest, this is horrible. And I wouldn't put this on your worst enemy. And then they went and they fixed it up. But yeah, at first he was like, no, I'm not doing this. This is horrible.
I'm sure this is known by a lot of people, but there's the report of Friedkin firing a gun in Jason Miller or Karras' ear to get a startled response. And Jason Miller's like, I'm an actor. I know how to be startled.
Linda Blair's demonic eyes kept irritating her eyes. So they had to give her anesthetic eye drops for hours on end so that she wouldn't feel the pain of these demonic eyes. She really took a beating on this film. And man, like the fact that I know you agree with her not winning the Oscar, but man, she went through hell.
She did go through hell. I'm not taking that away from Linda Blair. And did that have an effect on the rest of her life, knowing some of the things that happened to her as the years went on? Quite possibly. But
well, I know she suffered back issues from
she still does, yeah.
The harness they used when she was whipping up and down on the bed. Yep. It came loose and kept smacking her in the back. And so she was crying for help, and those were real cries. And he used those real cries because that's what he wanted, but she's had back issues for the rest of her life because of that.
Yeah.
And like Ellen Burstyn, same thing. The harness pulled her too hard and she threw out her back, and she's had problems ever since.
Yeah, and that scream was real.
And that scream's real too. Yeah.
Max von Sydow.
They actually used old man makeup on him.
Yeah, he was only 43 when they filmed this.
He was 43. I am 43 right now, fellas. Like at this moment, I'm like 44 in like a week, but I'm learning that for the first time when I was doing the research for this, and I'm like, that's bull. There's no way.
Well, at the beginning when he takes out his nitroglycerin pills and he's shaking and they've got the blue veins on his hand, like
even if they used a different actor, but I don't think they did for that one.
It was so well done.
Like it's one of those things where at first I'm like, man, Max von Sydow's been old for a really long time. He's been like from, he didn't age from 1970 till the moment of his death. Like, and then I went and researched and I was just like, oh, okay. It reminded me of Dame Maggie Smith in Hook. For forever, I thought she was just disgustingly old. When she was playing old Wendy, I'm just like, how did she look even better? Does she have work done? No, they just used a bunch of prosthetics on a established, excellent actress. And that's what they did with Maximum Sideout. But yeah, just it made me feel bad. Like the gravitas that he brought. And meanwhile, I can't even put gravitas into any of the things that I write. I can't take, like, there's a difference between Max von Sydow 43 and me, Mark Watson 43 for sure.
Well, and everybody, I think people age differently now, right?
Yeah, we always talk about like they were so much older back then.
Yeah. Right. So 43 in the 70s maybe looked a little different, but kudos to the makeup team because they made him look very old.
It was
at
very
that
natural.
Time. Yeah.
Like you can't see the seams,
no,
right? No. Like at all. Like, and going back watching it again, even last night, and I'm just like eyeballing it. I'm just like, no, it's still fantastic. No, it's still really good. It holds up. I didn't miss something the first time.
And sometimes when they do that HD restoration, it's where you start to see the flaws because they've made it so clean. But on the HD restoration, it's impeccable.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you have this note, but are we going to talk about the real life serial killer in this movie?
Oh yeah, the guy that put her into the MRI.
Yeah, the guy puts her into the machine, who ended up being a real life serial killer and ended up being the inspiration for Friedkin's, not next movie, but I think the one after that, Cruisin'. But like, as much as we want to talk about the movie on its own merits and try and avoid like the curse of the Exorcist and all these other like supernatural things around it,
right?
There's a lot of really weird like real life weird stuff happening with people in this movie. Like, does every movie have a serial killer in it that we just don't know about? And it just was popularized with this one because it was a scary movie. I don't know. Like, I know that there is a killer in Austin Powers. Other than that, I can't really name actual killers in other movies.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is so much going on with this, and the fact that that character, not a big character, I don't think he has a line, but he's there, and it ended up being like a horrible twisted story. Yeah. It just part of the mythos.
And it is hard with this. Like, it was the viewing of the film and the stories of the film what made it as powerful as it was and made it last as long as it did. I still think it's a film that stands on its own, but it didn't do very well critically. And it was a very divisive film. People loved it, hated it. But yeah, all the stories around it are really what drove it into popularity and like made people come out to see the screenings.
Something I learned about this, like the stories of people passing out in the theaters and stuff are fairly, but in researching this, what I had learned was that it wasn't so much like the scary scenes. It was like the angiogram scenes and like
that angiogram scene. I meant to do that in Test of Time. That
like it was scenes like that were actually the ones that were making a lot of people, like anything having to do with Reagan in the hospital and the things that they were
doing this to a child, right? And so people were getting very disturbed that this child was going through all these painful procedures.
Yeah, and I mean, other than like maybe weird B movies before that, what's a movie from this era or before that does things like that to a 12-year-old?
I don't think there's any film that is, basically torturing children was very much seen as we don't go there, right? Even now, what's that sequel to The Shining?
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. So there's that scene where they're sucking the life out of the boy and he's just like begging for death and please kill me. Oh no, not yet. And like seeing things happen to kids really, really upsets people. That scene in Dr. Sleep upset me to no end because this poor little guy is just getting tortured and they're like, oh no, we're not done with you yet. And
the book was worse.
Yes, that's what I've heard. Yeah. And then Linda Blair, she's 12 years old at this time. My son is 12 years old. It's pretty hard to believe that he would go through any of that.
Yep, mine's 13. Yeah. And just that correlation is unsettling.
I don't have kids, so it's hard for me to like understand the ability or the intelligence of kids at that age. And I taught grade 4, so around that age level. And Linda Blair seems, I know she was 13, 14 during filming, but just seems so much more intelligent beyond the years of the character.
I think there's a certain kind of child who can act in a movie like this, that they kind of have to be like that. So that's why we will see it. Like, and it's not just her, it's like the child actors who really stand out, regardless of whether or not something terrible happens to them afterwards, which it almost always does, sadly. They're obviously kids who are a cut above the masses at the same age. Not that they're necessarily smarter, but they just have a certain something that they can bring to the screen. Like there's a reason why Macaulay Culkin is so iconic, even from when he was 9-10 years old filming Home Alone.
Right.
He could carry that, like it's a physical comedy movie, and he still carries it as a physical comedy movie, not just a kid being a kid. And this was Linda Blair doing a horror movie, having horrible things happen, and approaching it maturely and being able to deliver on screen what is actually happening to Reagan, and that it takes a special kind.
Well, they auditioned over 500.
Yeah, I read 2001. So
before they even
a small town in Saskatchewan's worth of children.
Yes.
Auditioned
just to find Linda Blair, who came in and said, "Oh yeah, I've read the book," and he was like, "Oh, you've read the book?" That's kind of messed up.
To be fair, when I was that age, I was reading like Stephen King and stuff as well.
Right,
so like was I understanding everything? Should I have read it at 12? No. But
I think I got The Exorcist from the library when I was in grade 7 or 8.
I haven't even brought it up yet. I've never read it or the sequel. And I've also never seen any subsequent Exorcist movies.
No, I've only ever seen this one. Yeah, no, I haven't seen even the Exorcism of Emily Rose or anything like that. I haven't seen.
I've seen all of the Exorcist franchise films.
Oh, have you?
None of them really hold up. Exorcist 2000 was pretty good, but it was more the viewing experience than it was the film. Like Louise, my wife, like she gets so invested in films. Like when there's a jump scare, she screams. And that movie, there's a great jump scare and you see it coming a mile away, but Louise screamed so loud that she scared the theater. And like, because of that, it made it a good movie.
Right.
It is great taking people like that to horror movies.
That's me. I do that. I've mentioned it before at times, but jump scares, I think, are the cheapest form of thrill. Some people love them and I hate them because I'm so likely to have it happen to me. And I hate that. Like I know I'm just an on edge person. Like it's just who I am. So I'm just always kind of riding that line of stress at all points. And when something's like, bah, I'm like, I don't need this in my life right now. Like it's so I am someone who will, like, it does not take much. I am such a softie when it comes to like just somebody like sneaking up behind me and blah, like it does not take much at all. And maybe that's why I rally against jump scares, just because I hate those bastards.
See, I kind of like that. I'm kind of the same, but so I jump at like almost everything, but I like it. Because like it's a shot of adrenaline, and then I'll sit and laugh about it afterwards. There are some times where it annoys me. There are times where, while my daughter has come home from a particularly rough day and just not in the mood, and I come around, she jumps out from under the counter, and I'm like, "Mother, stop!" It's like, can I have a minute? So those ones, but for the most part, I really enjoy being scared, which is why I love horror movies. One of the other things I found out was that it took 60 days to shoot the exorcism scene.
Wow.
So 2 full months it took to film.
Fair. It's almost the entire last act of the movie, so it takes up a bunch. But
60 days in minus 20.
Yeah, they were getting 5 shots a day, and that's it.
Because, 4 hours of makeup for both those actors. Mm-hmm. And then you can only shoot minutes at a time because you have to keep resetting the meat locker ACs, and they kept breaking down, they said too, so they had to get them fixed all the time.
We got to 0. We're not having 0. We're going minus 20
going
here,
minus
people.
20. You are freezing.
Well, it snowed in the room. Like they got to the set and there was snow. It was so cold.
It's called acting. Just
one thing I would like to point out on this, as part of the character building, it's established that Karras was a boxer, right? Like you see the pictures of him boxing, and Kinderman at one point is talking to him. Oh, he used to be a boxer and stuff. And then you see him like wailing on that heavy bag.
Yeah.
As someone with some fighting acumen, he is a terrible boxer.
Yes.
He is absolutely horrible.
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, he's just throwing wild punches.
It would not have taken much at all to get a consultant on set that one day, just to give him 10 minutes of working with the guy just to try and figure.
All he needed to do was jab, cross, and then like circle the bag, jab, cross.
There's something that looks like a combination.
Yeah.
Like it, even if it's just you expressing your frustration on the bag, which I think is what that scene is meant to represent. When you have that acumen, even when you're trying to get frustrations out, you still have the skills. There's still the underlying ability to do it. And it's one of those things where like an expert in a particular field, not that I'm an expert, but an expert in a particular field will watch a movie and be all like, well, let me tell you why that scene's wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
But like they're trying to establish this. He's very frustrated. And I'm like, did you just open hand hit that bag? Like,
yeah, he's coming at it from the sides. He's just kind of
losing all momentum. It's just chaos.
The
It's absolute
bag's
chaos.
not really moving a lot, so you're just like.
But he's moving a lot.
Yeah.
He's really animated getting around that bag. Like, do you know how a heavy bag works? That's not how a heavy bag works.
It's a good thing you went to the priesthood because you're not much of a boxer. Yeah.
I can see why he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You do that in a ring and you're not lasting 10 seconds.
No.
He never said he was a successful boxer.
No, that's true. But like, apparently he had some kind of reputation. If Kinderman is just like, oh,
You are built and moved like one.
But then you see how he gets gassed out, right? Like he's sitting there, he's just hitting it like wildly, and then he's like, whoo, whoo, and then he's just done. And I was like, well, that is what would happen if you you went charging in there like that. You would
zero efficiency of movement in that scene whatsoever. I didn't put it in as like one of those things that
should have been
doesn't hold up.
I wanted to bring it up now, just
or a back it up moment.
Yeah, just like, what is he doing to that bag? Like, oh my gosh.
All of my notes, I don't know if I need to bring up, it's all around like the mythology of the watching of the film. So I don't know if I need to add that in.
See what you got.
The one thing that I found that was kind of interesting, Father Dyer is played by a real priest. And so people thought that meant the Catholic Church gave credence or legitimacy to it. And the church wasn't a fan of the film for obvious reasons.
Right.
Shocking.
But then Friedkin claims that the church credits this film for inspiring new applicants to the priesthood and to become nuns. They said there was a rise after this. So
I can't say I don't believe that.
That priest is also the guy that Friedkin hit across the face because he wasn't getting the emotional response he wanted from him. So
the non-actor, he was a consultant on set.
The priest that was the consultant, he slapped in the face. So that
70s guerrilla movie making, man, it's wild.
Oh man, what they got away with is just crazy. Everybody's coming out of there with back problems and no work afterwards. Like Linda Blair only did Exorcist stuff and then never again.
Yeah.
Like what happened?
The 70s happened after that, as I understand it.
Does anybody know what she got paid for that role?
No. Or what her parents got paid. Let's be clear.
What her parents got paid for that role?
I wouldn't be shocked if Linda Blair didn't see a dime from that movie.
Because she didn't get, she went through a horrible experience for this film. 9 months it took to create this movie. 60 days just on that exorcism scene alone with all the extras and stuff. The throwing up mechanism wouldn't allow her to close her mouth, so that she was...
Yeah, they keep it open. Yeah. And from a movie making perspective, regardless, for a relatively mundane movie like this, 9 months for a genre picture like this is huge.
Yeah.
Like that is major. Like we're not talking about some giant special effects thing, even for the 70s.
Avengers or anything like that,
Yeah.
where you're in a green screen and you have all these, like they use practical effects. They were on set the whole time, on location. I know Iraq was an issue.
Yeah. They had to have the whole British scene because of the issues between Iraq and the United States at the time. So nobody from the American shooting crew could go over there.
Yeah. So they had all these issues around that. But yeah, pretty crazy what she had to go through to make this film. But nothing?
No. But on the what she went through, like they eventually had to get bodyguards for her as well.
Oh, yeah. She got a bunch of death threats.
Yeah, because she got death threats for being in this film.
Yeah.
Why would you?
She wasn't the only one, but I mean, who's giving death threats to a 14-year-old girl?
Are those like devout Catholics that are giving her death threats? People that are afraid that she's actually possessed? Like what?
Or angry at her depiction of possession? I'm not sure.
Yeah, who's being offended by that?
Wouldn't you feel more sorry for her?
Like, be angry at the director. Be angry at the
writers and the producers and the studio.
Be angry at the guys playing Catholic priests, except for the guy who's actually a Catholic priest in this. Like, don't be mad at the little girl who's just on set doing what she's supposed to be doing.
I don't get that.
No.
I had read that too, and it's just like, why threaten her? That doesn't make any sense.
And in a world full of like coincidences, I have to bring this up because it is so strange. Again, the mythology around this movie. Okay, so this week I watch this movie. I sit down, I'm making my notes for it so we can have this conversation. And so there's a YouTube channels that I watch, and one of them is an excellent YouTube channel called Great Art Explained, which is great for somebody like me who appreciates art, but I want it abridged into about 15 minutes as to why I should be appreciating this art. So this week it was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was something done by René Magritte. And René Magritte is the artist who did the Empire of Light paintings, that the famous shot from The Exorcist of Max von Sydow standing outside the
Okay.
It's
based loosely on.
Based loosely on Empire of Light 2. Like you can go and you can take a look at it and you can be like, yeah, okay, I can see where that comes from. So that's number one. Number two, this morning I wake up and another YouTuber that I watch is a music reviewer and essayist known as Todd in the Shadows. And he'll do things talking about popular music for the most part, but he also does one-hit wonders. And what was the one that he was doing today? Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells.
Oh, really?
Wow. And it played on Friday the 13th on TV, as you mentioned. And it played
on Friday the 13th on TV. And I didn't even know it was Friday the 13th until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Somebody said it on the radio. I'm like, is it really? Oh my God. It is. Oh, wow, look at that. Yeah. I'm wearing way too much color today. Wow. Yeah.
On the mythology around the film or coincidences, like there's a lot of talk about, the vomiting and the passing out and the ill effects of the film. One article did talk about like heart attacks and even a miscarriage were reported.
Oh, wow.
For the audience reaction. So that was extreme. And then the one like real coincidence that I liked was in Rome, the theater was like housed between two churches.
Everything's housed between two churches in Rome. Just saying.
And during the screening, there was a severe thunderstorm and the lightning beside the theater was struck and a cross from on top of the church fell through the roof of the theater and into the theater where Exorcist was being screened.
Oh my Lord. That's so crazy.
That's one of those a tornado hits a Twister playing,
yes,
or hits a movie theater playing the movie Twister in Ontario when that happened too.
Like absolute coincidence, but like I'm an atheist, and if I was in that theater, I'd be like, oh hell no,
I'm done, I'm out. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that discussion. That brings us to our watchability scale. Chad, where would you place this from a 1 to a 10?
Oh, I love this movie. Like I say, I've seen it 4 times, so watchability is pretty high for me. I'm going to go 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd stick it at 9 as well. Mark?
I would put it at an 8. I love the movie. This is the worst thing to say on a horror movie podcast. I don't watch as many horror movies as you guys. Let me just establish that. But this is necessary watching from a movie making, from a story perspective, but I give it 2 off just because the things that are disturbing, like I can watch it. I know what's coming. If somebody out there in your listening audience has never seen this, there's some stuff in there that I just can't recommend watching. Like there's some things that I'm like, right. There's some things that are going to stick with you. There's some things you can't unremember in this movie.
That's
and
right.
You might want to, and you can't, and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. It's Rocco's basilisk of like scary things that stick in your head. This is a reason why the tropes exist, and it's important to see it, but there's some stuff in here that's going to mess you up if you're not ready for it, and not everybody's ready for it.
Fair enough.
It's true.
Yep. Thank you very much for listening to us. Be sure to check us out on our Instagram page. We are at ScreamStreamPod with no S's. Stop by our website, www.screamsandstreams.com, where we have information about our episodes, descriptions of our categories, links to our research, and our watchability scale where we rank all of the movies we are looking at. And please subscribe to, rate, and comment on our shows on any of the platforms where you get your podcasts. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a ton of fun.
Until next time, this has been Mike and
Chad.
Thank you.